All right, good morning. We're going to get started right away. Still waiting on some people to pay attention. Okay, put your hands down. This morning we're going to talk about how to accumulate some college credit while you're in high school. So for some of you, you may want to know about this. For others of you, you're like, oh, I'm not sure this is for me, and that's okay. But we have Estelle from Bethany here to talk, and then also a former student who did take a bunch of college credits while she was here, Lexi Wood. So let's welcome Estelle from Bethany.
Can you hear me now? Excellent. All right, yes, I'm Estelle. I am the Director of Admissions at Bethany. Some of you may remember me from being here last year. If you were sophomores, you probably are like, oh, we get to hear from her again. I promise it'll be fun. So we're gonna talk about college credit for high school students, which is you, AP, dual credit, PSEO. What does all of these beautiful acronyms mean? So, who should take these classes? High school juniors and seniors are eligible to take these classes, but most importantly, you need to be a motivated high school junior or senior because these are college level classes and they do require extra time and effort, and taking a college level English class is not the same as taking your high school level English class. So, what does it mean when we say dual enrollment? These courses give you high school credit that goes towards graduation, as well as meeting college requirements. So a lot of the classes that you are eligible to take will meet gen ed requirements for college, high school requirements, and possibly even major requirements. It can also help you explore different areas that you might be interested in majoring in college and getting some of that out of the way. So if you take a dual credit psychology class, you might find out you really like psychology. You may also find out you don't like psychology, but you can still use that credit towards your graduation. You can take these classes either just for the fall semester, just in the spring semester. You can take them both semesters. Occasionally, students who are really ambitious even want to try and take summer classes. I caution on the summer classes because it's the same amount of coursework, but instead of being in a 16-week semester, it is in an 8-week semester. So you're going double time. Most kids like to have, most people, I would love, to have a little relaxation during the summer. So summer classes can be tough. Now, there is considerable amount of time that takes for a college class. Does anyone know what the ratio that we use to figure out how much time you should allow for a class is? For college level classes, what you use is that for every credit hour, so every hour you spend in class, you should plan to spend 2 hours outside of class. So what that means is if you have a 3-credit class, you're gonna spend 3 hours in class, and then how many hours outside of class? 6, for a grand total of 9 hours a week that you will need to spend on that class. So take that into account, because if you think you're going to be in 3 sports and part of this club and part of that club, plus keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, you still have your high school classes that you need to take. So just make sure you're taking that into account as you're signing up for these classes. Because if you take these classes, you can take them online or in person or a combination of both, depending on where you do them. Now, obviously, if you're taking a class online here at St. Croix, the great thing is you can just go to your allotted study hall and work on that class during that time. But that also requires you to go to that study hall and work on that class and not just sit there and hang out and talk to your friends and not use that time wisely. If it's in person, you need to take into account the commute time to get to wherever you're going. And if it's a combination, now you have to balance all of those. Also keep in mind that if you're taking the classes in person, that means that there may be a certain amount of time that you're not here on campus, so you will be missing out on certain high school events and activities that are going on, because in college, you don't get to just say, oh, there's a pep rally, I can't come to class today. Your professor's gonna say, I don't care, you need to be in class because you're taking a college level class. The great thing about these courses is that you can get ahead. You can challenge yourself. So if you're at the point where like, you know, I really need a bigger level of this class, this is a great option for that. You can explore your interests. And yes, one of the other bonuses is you can save some money. How do we save the money? Well, we'll get to that in a second. But a word of caution, big word of caution. When you take these courses as a dual credit or a PSEO student, it does start your official college transcript. Those credits can never go away, which if you do really well is great. If you blow it off and you fail or get a grade that you don't like, those credits are still reported to the National Clearinghouse, and they will still show up on all of your transcripts throughout your life. Anybody here thinking of going to graduate school? Being a doctor, lawyer, engineer, any of those? A few of you? These grades go with you. Some jobs even want all of your college transcripts. So you have to turn these in. So be thinking of that. The worst case scenario is if you get a bad grade, let's say you drop a college class without telling anyone, or you fail that college class without telling anyone, and then the school sends your final report card, your final transcript to your high school, you may not graduate from high school because you needed those credits to graduate. That would be very disappointing, I think, for everyone. Can we agree on that? Mr. Rachi.
By the way, that is not something you want to go through, and it does happen. On average, it happens about every other year here at St. Croix, where a senior is walking the stage, but they actually have no diploma in that thing they get from the principal because they failed a PSEO class. So then that means the summer after they graduate, supposedly graduated from high school, they're taking courses to try to make up the class that they didn't take care of during the year. Not a fun situation, so we do want to avoid that at all costs.
So how you can take these courses, oh, we should, before we touch on these, there's also the option of the AP classes, which you guys have heard about. The upside of the AP course is that when you take the test at the end of the course, the score that you get on that test determines whether or not you get college credit. So if you do well, you get college credit. If you don't do well, you don't have to report it. It doesn't go on your transcript. It doesn't affect anything. The downside is that in an AP course, you're gonna go through all of that coursework and you're gonna get a grade at your high school class, and then you have to take that one test. And that test determines whether or not you get the college credit. So you may have gotten an A in the class, but if you don't do well on the test or you don't test well, you may not get the college credit. So that's another option, but you have to weigh those pros and cons. So you can take these courses as two different programs: high school dual credit, PSEO. PSEO is for students who are Minnesota residents. You have to do a few different things, but there's two different options. If you're not a Minnesota resident, then you take it as high school dual credit. You need to apply. Whether you go to Bethany or any other college, it is on you to apply to the college, get admitted, register for classes, and go through that whole thing. Just because you tell Dr. Rachi that you're going to take this class does nothing at the college. If you don't apply and register, you're not taking that class. So those are the requirements. PSEO at Bethany, we do require an ACT. So you need to take that earlier. Both of them require counselor approval, so your school has to sign off on it. And if you're taking an online class, we do require you sign an online learner contract so that you understand the requirements. Because when you're in a college course, sending an email that says, oh, my computer didn't have battery, I couldn't take the test, is not going to fly. Cost, like we said, there is a cost savings to taking these courses. This is much cheaper than taking a regular college course. Most colleges will give you either a full tuition rate or a per credit rate. Bethany's per credit rate is around $1,200 if you average it out. So, as a Minnesota PSEO student, you actually pay nothing. The state pays for it. As a dual credit, it's $125 a credit. So still a huge, huge discount. And we have, with St. Croix as one of our partner schools, a grant so that if you take these classes and then you would enroll at Bethany, you get all that money back. So then they end up costing you nothing. One of the big questions that we always get is, are they transferable? Yes. Rule of thumb for college transferring credits at the college level. The school that you are transferring the credits into, the receiving school of the transfer, determines if they accept the credits and how they accept the credits. Rule of thumb is if it's from a regionally accredited institution, which Bethany is, and you have a C or higher, your credits will transfer in. How they transfer depends on the grade you got, the program you're going into, and the timing. So, for example, if you took a science class, but it wasn't a lab science, and you're going into biology, you might get credits for those courses, but they're going to be elective credits. So you might find yourself taking another course. So that's where it's always good to check with the college you're planning on going to of what the credit will come in as. So now I will turn it over from a very experienced college student to give you a little bit of the student perspective.
Okay, hi guys, I'm Lexi. I graduated St. Croix last year and I did PSEO junior and senior year. My junior year, I took online through Bethany. I worked a lot with Estelle, she's awesome, so if you have questions, reach out to her. We were just talking, I was like, I think I texted you every other day, just because that's how I am. And my senior year, so junior year I only took 3 classes each semester. Senior year, I did through Inver Hills and St. Paul College, and I was full-time. I was taking, I want to say 12 or 18 credits each semester. So at Inver Hills, I did online classes, and then I also had a couple that were in person, so I was going to the campus and sitting in lecture hall and with other people. And then my St. Paul College, I just took sign language there. And I did those hybrid, so I went on Mondays and then did online Zoom on Wednesdays. And so when you're looking at registering for PSEO classes, make sure you see if it's like a class that meets at a specific time or if it's not, because that'll matter with your high school courses as well, because you want to make sure that you can be in class or just do it online if that's what you want to do. And so just some pros and cons. My pros is I graduated high school with around 45 credits of college classes, and I didn't pay anything for those. So your books are paid for, everything's paid for. So that was really helpful. That saved me a lot of money. And now I'm taking a semester off. So that helped me stay up to track with where my normal class would be and still be able to take a semester off and figure out what I want to do. I worked a lot. I worked 40 hours a week last year, which is a lot to add on to PSEO, but it's an option if that's something you need to do to save money for college and stuff like that. And that's what I got for that. And then cons is, I was like, oh, I'll be able to make everything, like it'll be fine. I missed some of like the homecoming events and the Sadie stuff because I had class, so I couldn't just cut my college class to come play dodgeball with my classmates. So that was hard, but it's something that you have to sacrifice or plan ahead of time that you might not be able to do everything. And then this is kind of minor, but like last year I had 3 papers due in 1 week. One was MLA, one was APA, and one was Chicago. And those are all 3 different formats. So that's one thing you do also need to consider, is that you're not going to be writing papers in the same format. You're going to have to do that and learn new things. And so I really relied on Mr. Fry. Actually, he helped me a lot. He has a little book with all the formats. So it's just know your resources. Something I wish I knew, so I love Mr. Rachi, but I did not necessarily pay attention in all of these presentations, so pay attention, because you do have to apply for the college. So I was like all planned out, ready to go, and then I was like, oh shoot, I can't register because I didn't apply for the college. So make sure you do that. If you're gonna do PSEO, do it sooner rather than later. These classes, like, take them seriously. They're not just like, oh, I'm just doing this so I can get college credit, whatever. So I'm going for elementary ed right now, and you have to take your licensing exams. And so for the history one, I took US history my junior year through Bethany. And now I have to go and take a licensing exam for that. And I'm like, oh shoot, I am not prepared for that because I did not, I just kind of went through the class, got it done, whatever. And now I'm like, okay, I have to go take an actual test to get my teaching license. So make sure that you're really applying yourself in the classes and learning, especially if it's gonna go into your professional career. And take a study hall. So my junior year, I didn't take an extra study hall for my high school classes, and I wish I would have, because my study halls that were dedicated for my PSEO classes were full. I was doing PSEO that whole time, finishing my classes and online classes. So make sure you dedicate one if you're taking an AP class or like A&P or something difficult. Make sure you're dedicating a study hall to that as well. And finally, my advice is to be proactive here. So when you're trying to register and stuff, go talk to Mr. Rachi, talk to teachers, talk to your parents and see if they think that this is a good idea as well for you, because they see you more, they know you, they know what your schedule looks like, if you're working, playing sports, whatever. It's really important to be proactive in that. And then also when you get to college, be very proactive about your transfer credits. So like last semester, one of my English classes didn't transfer in. So I get to first day of class, sitting there, and it was the exact same thing that I took last semester. So I was very proactive, and I went to my dean of students and I was like, hey, like this should have transferred in. They looked at it and they transferred it. So just make sure to be very proactive and go out and get what you need, because you didn't take the class for nothing. You want it to transfer. And finally, just ask lots of questions and rely on other people, and that's all I have for you.
Great, thanks, Lexi. For those of you that, if you're aspiring to do it, Lexi did it right. She really took the bull by the horns and got things done and was very proactive on things. And it's really a help for you, that some of you that do that. So we're gonna run through a couple things for the last few minutes. There's gonna be a lot of questions, and I know that. You can come talk to me at any point. But first, this is a phenomenal program for you, if you're ready and if you want to take advantage of it. Not everybody is ready, and I'm going to give you a couple examples. When you start picking away at college courses while you're in high school, you are moving up the life timeline. And what I mean by that is you're going to graduate from college earlier. I was having a conversation with a mom of a former student of ours, and she did a lot of PSEO. She graduated from college at 20 years old and didn't pay much for college at all because she got so much done in PSEO. Well, that's great. Her 20-year-old daughter was now heading into the adult working world at age 20. And so she felt a little what's a good word? Intimidated by old people. Because now you're going to apply for jobs with people who are 30, 40, 50 years old, and you've just moved up the timeline. So you need to be very mature and understand that that's what you're getting into. Great program to do, but everything gets moved up. You're gonna have to pick your major earlier. Like if you're a person who's sitting here right now and you don't really know what you want to do after high school, I would be very cautious in accumulating a lot of credits, because then you're gonna have to decide that question faster. And maybe you need another year of maturity or just to think about things. So while it's a great program, it doesn't mean it's a great fit for absolutely everybody. So I want you to be aware of that. We require you to take the ACT in order to participate. So Estelle had up there that Bethany requires the 23. In order for us to allow you to take it from any college, you've got to take the ACT and get a 20 composite on your ACT. If you have not taken the ACT, you still have time to sign up for the April ACT. That's the last one we'll allow you to sign up for to take PSEO or dual credits for next year, so make sure you do that. Juniors, you are allowed only to take online courses. You're not allowed to leave the building. So whatever course you take would be online, and how it works is we would take whatever course you signed up for and we would swap it for what's called an academic study hall, where you'd have that time dedicated every day to just work on your college course. And if you're dedicated and doing it every day, it shouldn't be a big deal. It is a big deal if you have a hard time keeping yourself focused in a study hall. That might be a red flag for you. Seniors who take 12 credits or more are allowed to leave campus, and you only have to come back for religion. We have about 10 seniors right now who aren't here during the day, and they come back for religion either first hour or 8th hour. You have to take religion as a senior. And they're off at the college campus. Some of them have jobs, like Lexi was talking about, so it gives you a lot of flexibility. And again, it's a matter of, are you ready for that or not? Some people who are seniors are ready to be done with high school. They're tired of the high school routine. Some people aren't, and that's okay. But if you are one of those people who's like, all right, I'm kind of tired of this, I'm ready to move on, there's an opportunity for you to actually do that. For those of you that really enjoy every minute of high school, then you don't have to push that life timeline up if you don't wish to. There's nothing wrong with putting it off and keep waiting until after you graduate. You need to be aware that, as Estelle said, these are called dual credits, so you're getting credit at both the high school level and the college level, so it does impact your grades at both places. And if someday you decide at 35 years old you want to go to graduate school, that course you took at Bethany or Inver when you were a junior in high school gets sent to that school that you're trying to get into graduate school with. So you do want to make sure you take it seriously and make sure that it's a high priority. With priorities, you also need to take a look at what your life looks like. In high school right now, you take 7 classes, most of you, some of you might take 8, and you're involved in sports or extracurriculars or band, choir, fine arts, maybe a job, different clubs, and that keeps you pretty busy. A typical college student, full-time college student, takes 12 or more credits, does not participate in sports typically, might have a job, and that's about it. But they're not as involved with all these things. So for you to add in a college class while you're really busy outside of your other stuff, you have to make some tough choices sometimes. I had a girl who was having some tears in my office because she overcommitted herself, and she had to decide, do I want to continue playing club volleyball or deal with a college class? Once you put your name down and you start accumulating the college credits, the priority has to be the college class because that's permanent. So she ended up setting club volleyball aside because of that. So if you feel like your life outside of school is really busy, then maybe you need to be cautious before you start signing up for these things too. To things you should consider on if this is a good choice for you. Rigor is one of it. These are college classes, so they're a lot more in-depth and detailed. And the other side that's going to make a big difference to you is this. Once you leave high school, you will never be taught by an educator again. I'm going to say that again. Once you leave high school, you will not be taught by an educator. And what I mean by that is someone who was trained to be a teacher. Your college professors maybe took a class on how to teach a class, but they are not trained educators the majority of the time. So you may look at it and go, they don't know how to teach this subject. They're really smart, but they don't know how to teach it to me. And that's absolutely the case. They don't have education degrees. They might have a business degree. They might have a psychology degree, some other type of degree, but it's not an education degree. So the style of learning and what they expect you to do is very different from what you experience from pre-kindergarten up to 12th grade. After that, if you have somebody who's a trained educator, you should be very thankful. The oversight piece is huge. When you take a college class, I have zero idea how you're doing. Zero. And your parents do too. Colleges will not communicate with me. They will not communicate with your parents. You are on your own. You may think, good. Rachi's not looking over my shoulder. Well, it depends on where you are in your developmental level. Are you ready for that or not? And as I mentioned before, we do have students who fail college courses pretty regularly because they don't have the skills to work on things on their own without people checking up on them. Nobody's going to check up on you. So you've got to be really self-motivated to get things done. One thing I would ask you is, and I'm going to have you do this in a second, but I asked you at the beginning of the year, how many unread emails are in your inbox? If it's in the triple digits, you got a problem. If you're in 4 digits and 5 digits, you got a significant problem. Your colleges are going to communicate with you over email, and if you're not good at keeping on top of that, you're going to miss a lot of stuff and you're going to get yourself into trouble. So those are the sort of adult world skills that you need to be able to handle if you're going to start stepping into the college world. And then your maturity level and your self-motivation level. This whole process is driven by you. I will assist you, I will talk you through things, but as Lexi mentioned, you have to apply to the college. Just because you apply to the college doesn't mean you're in the class. Once you get accepted, then you have to register for the class. And every year I have students who apply and think everything's hunky-dory, but yet they never registered for the class, and the class filled up and now they can't get in. So there's a race to get into classes too. So you want to make sure that you're on top of your email, that you're reading things, that you know what you're doing. All that application stuff, all the forms you have to fill out, it needs to be done by you. And you can ask me for help and I'll guide you, but ultimately it's student driven. And if you don't do that, well then that's a sign to us that you're not ready. And it's okay if you don't get things done. I'd rather have you miss a deadline and not take a class than to somehow sneak it in and then you end up failing a class and that goes on your permanent college transcript. That is not a great thing for you going forward. There's a bunch of dates that you have to follow. So there's a sheet, and I didn't print these out. They're in it's in the daily announcements. It's near the bottom of the announcements. There's some PSEO information. There's a link that says read here. If you want to get your phone out, you can look at it. And it's going to have a lot of stuff on that document. You are responsible for reading all of that and knowing all of it and following it. The directions for what to do, the dates that you have to follow are all in there. So we encourage you to take a look at that. And again, if you want help, I'm more than willing to sit with you and talk you through some things and give you some ideas. But ultimately, it needs to be driven by you. One question that is often common is, where do I go to get classes? You can go to pretty much any school in Minnesota to take dual credit classes. The top 3 most popular schools that our students take are Bethany, Inver Hills, and Northwestern St. Paul. And I'm not saying any of those are better than the other. I'm just saying those are the most popular ones. And whether it's due to location or familiarity, or I talked to somebody and they took a class from there, it's just kind of where things go. But we do have probably about 20 different schools that we deal with in doing this. So you can choose pretty much any Minnesota school to find a class for. Does anybody have any questions that you're willing to ask in front of the whole group? Yes? One other thing I wanted to bring up is, if you haven't taken an AP class yet, I would recommend you dip your toe into taking an AP class before you jump straight into a whole bunch of college courses.
One thing quick to add too is that the college courses will always follow the college calendar. So that is something to keep in mind because colleges start earlier. So there's a chance that that beautiful spring break vacation that you think you're going to take next year, you might have classes because it does not necessarily line up with your high school spring break. And it always goes by the college calendar.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And days where St. Croix might not be in school, you may have assignments due. So you're dealing with two different worlds and you got to keep on top of both. So it's really important that you keep things straight like that. Mr. Cook, did you have a couple things?
Just one thing, since ACT is part of what is required of you, this is important not just for PSEO, but also just taking your ACT for potential college admission. Our school is in a city called West St. Paul. Most of the time, when people write that, they write the word West, and then they write ST period, and then Paul. If you do that with ACT when you're registering stuff, you will not find St. Croix in that. If you are going to ACT, you're registering for things, make sure that for the location of our school, you're spelling the word Saint, S-A-I-N-T. Then you'll see our school. If you don't do that, our school will not show up. There you go.
Let's give a hand to Estelle and Lexi for being here today.